This palace of wax has attracted a truckload of trouble.
Over the last 5 years, we've had 2 deaths, a burglary, a fire, and then the arrest of an individual who subsequently was killed in Dallas. And all of those incidents have connections with the Wax Museum.
It all started back in 1984 with the mysterious death of Lori Ann Williams, an aspiring model who was the executive secretary for the Wax Museum co-owner Patsy Wright. For several days, Lori had been complaining of stomach pains and nausea.
She goes to they operated on her, and they took out her appendix, but there was nothing wrong with her appendix. Instead of getting better, she got worse and died within 17 days.
Lori's death was attributed to viral pneumonia. No one questioned the finding until her boss, Patsy Wright, turned up dead 3 years later, just before Halloween.
I believe that Lori Williams died, either for something she found out or by accident, something that may have been intended for Patsy over a prolonged period of time.
Bill Deere is a high-paid, high-profile private eye who had been hired by Patsy's family to find her killer. He believes both Lori and Patsy were murdered by someone close to the Wax Museum.
There's no doubt in my mind, no doubt, I think some of the police department, that Lori Williams was in fact poisoned the same way Patsy was, with strychnine.
Deere had Lori's body exhumed in a futile search for traces of poison. He also recreated the scene of Patsy's death, a gruesome tableau that resembles a set in the Wax Museum.
Her body was just twisted, the pillows were over here, and I think one of them was kind of down on the floor, and sheets were all torn around, and her gown was all just disarranged. The phone was laying on the floor, and then the NyQuil was just inside the bathroom.
It was a velvet hammer. Patsy's NyQuil had been laced with enough strychnine to kill 20 people. As she began to choke and gasp for air, pleading for help, her sister and brother-in-law, Sally and Steve Horning, rushed to Patsy's home and called 911.
Ma'am? Yes. What's wrong? She's in a coma. She's been drinking and she's took NyQuil. Okay, ma'am, calm down. Okay, what's the phone number you're calling from? 265-6924. You have to breathe into her mouth. Is she breathing at all? No. She's not breathing. No, operator, come on.
But help came too late. The woman who made a fortune off wax figures of fear died a painful death from poisoning, and her murder has never been solved. Sergeant Jay Gustafson of the Arlington Police.
I think I have a good idea who murdered her.
But you can't prove it.
No.
It must be frustrating.
I'm just not through with the case yet.
But the mystery of the Wax Museum had just begun. In September 1988, disaster struck again. Lieutenant Doug Connor of the Grand Prairie Fire Department was there.
From the time the call came in till our units got there, it was only minutes. And they made initial entry and had to back out because the flames were already too great. The fire was too intense.
It was a scene straight out of the classic movie, Mystery of the Wax Museum. Wax figures burn like candles in the flames. 300 figures, millions of dollars, all went up in smoke. Federal investigators ruled the fire accidental, but Lieutenant Connor believes someone set the blaze.
I have a real difficult time believing that it was an accidental fire. It's possible that some type of accelerant was used, initiated by an electrical short. It's easy enough to do.
And the motive?
I think it's greed. That's a personal opinion, of course. There were some people that had things or had monetary gains to be made from the burning of the Wax Museum.
Once again, no charges were ever filed, except one, burglary, against a young man named Stanley Pointer, and he too would end up dead. Deputy Police Chief Rick White.
After the fire, you have an individual who goes into the Wax Museum and takes a financial ledger who says he's a souvenir hunter. Is he hunting for a souvenir or is he not?
Why would you go into a burned out wax museum cordoned off by the police guards, and you hide and crawl through there, go through all the entire burned out area, passing hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of souvenirs, enter a burned out hallway, go into an office building that wasn't burned, open a closet door, climb up on a 6-foot shelf, and retrieve a ledger book as a souvenir? That's bunk.
At a press conference, Bill Deere trumpeted Stanley Pointer's arrest as a major break in the Wax Museum mystery.
It seems like he's looking very hard. He's very determined to find someone to solve his mystery. But I'm not that person.
But Stanley Pointer would make another fatal mistake. In April of last year, he was shot to death by a Dallas police officer, whom he allegedly tried to run down.
I think he knew he was a suspect in the Wax Museum murder and murder or arson out here. He was a suspect with a warrant issued for his arrest in Houston for burning a church facility.
Wright, Lori Williams, 3 deaths, a burglary, and a fire. But as night falls on the Palace of Wax, the question remains, why?
I think there will link Pointer with the person that caused the death of Patsy Wright. I don't know that Pointer actually knows that person, but I believe today that there's a third party that knows both of them. They very well may have coordinated the efforts of some of the things that surround the Wax Museum.
Bill Deere believes one possible link among several may be Patsy's brother-in-law, Steve Horning, the same man who rushed to Patsy's side when she was poisoned. According to Deere, Patsy and Steve had argued bitterly over control of the Wax Museum and the millions of dollars at stake. Deere even has a letter Patsy wrote to her ex-husband expressing her fears about Steve.
And in the letter it said, Steve Horning has gone through all of Sally's money from her inheritance. $500,000. He's got her equally in debt. I don't want him to have any part of this Wax Museum. If anything happens to me, follow through with it. He's dangerous.
Steve Horning has never been charged with murder or arson, and he has fully cooperated with the police. Our producer, Terry Whitcraft, wanted to get his side of the story.
Who do you think killed Patsy?
I don't know. We're going to find out, I hope.
And some people say, well, Bill Deere says that it was someone very close to her, and some have even suggested it might have been you.
I can't help what Bill Deere says.
Mm-hmm.
At all.
Did you have anything to do with Patsy's death?
No, and I have no further comments. Thank you.
Today, Bill Deere is officially off the Wax Museum case. He was fired by Patsy's family, but he says he won't quit until the mystery is solved.
There was a movie years ago with, I believe, Vincent Price called The House of Wax, where actually the figures were real people that were covered in wax. Those are just wax out there. And what it means to me is it can be solved. Wax melts. It's ironic. I'm waiting to see them put a display there of Patsy.
Well, Steve Horning and his wife, Sally, tell us they are continuing to investigate Patsy's death and are determined to find her killer.